Hi everyone and welcome to Safe Diving. So YouTube recommends plenty of scuba diving related videos to me, I know, go figure, and a few of them are about how scary scuba diving is and by overcoming fears and basically what to be scared of in the water. Now I am very lucky that deep water and wildlife don't tend to scare me, so I've taken to scuba diving very easily. But there are some things about scuba diving that actually do scare me. Now, I'm not afraid of sharks in the usual top 5 list of scary watery things because I've seen most of them, to be honest, and they're not really interested in you. Sharks are afraid of scuba divers. Actually, most marine life is afraid of us scuba divers because we're noisy, odd-looking creatures that move kind of funny, so negative interactions between divers and marine life is usually our fault. So yes, I've been in and around the diving world for quite a while now, and whilst I probably wouldn't go up and swim with a great white shark and just give it a little tickle, I'd quite happily sign up for a dive to go swim with them in the wild. I'll be alright with that. But there are some things that truly do scare me about scuba diving, and here are 5 of them. Boat propellers are scary. If somebody tried to describe a boat propeller to an alien, it would be 2 or more knives that are attached to a rotating shaft at the back of a boat, near where scuba divers get in and out from. Boat propellers are spinning wheels of pain that should be avoided at all costs. I mean, I've met a chap who was once holding onto the side of a rib, waiting for his turn to get back in. The rib then drifted a little bit too close to the nearby reef, so the rib handler just gunned the engine for a bit to move them all away from it. Only this guy kind of let his legs just lift underneath the rib. And now he has tiger stripe scars all the way down one leg. If there's one thing I will keep my distance from because I simply don't trust it, it's boat propellers. There are few basic rules when it comes to boats regarding their propellers, like don't ride on the bow of a boat, use an SMB when you're anywhere near the surface, and hold onto the boat whenever you're nearby. As the previous story should teach you, don't let your legs kind of drift around neither. Riding on the bow of a boat may make you feel like you're the king of the world, but if you slip forwards, you're going to fall into the water, and when the hull actually hits you, that'll be the good part of your experience, because the next bit includes the propeller. When you're underwater, you are merely a small patch of bubbles to boats, and there are just too many stories of boat strikes on divers, so when I'm on my way back up to the surface, I'm looking up and around at any boat traffic coming anywhere near me, and I always send up an SMB before I get anywhere near the surface. We're seeing more and more about ocean plastics on social media, and whilst it may feel like fake news, we're actually seeing more and more plastic in our oceans, and it's getting kind of scary. Going out on a dive and not seeing some kind of human trash is becoming kind of rare. Brands are actually making mesh bags for scuba divers to collect any trash, and usually at the end of a dive my pockets are full of just trash that I've picked up. Marine plastic is very much on the rise, and we very much need to change and educate the entire world to the dangers of plastics. Now personally, I've grown up seeing adverts and posters made to shock and move people to changing by using just old dated pictures and videos of just the worst things that humans have done to animals and other people, but trust me when I say that the problem of marine plastic is a real problem and we actually need to do something about it. Ghost gear is probably the most dangerous part of marine plastics, and ghost gear is discarded fishing equipment. Equipment that was designed and manufactured to catch fish and last in marine environments for a very long time. When fishermen cast their nets and lines in the water, they do it in places where there will be lots of fish. Go figure. Fish often live in places with shelter, such as rocks and wrecks, and the fishing gear often gets caught on these rocks. Now, the fishermen can't actually get down and free the gear, so what they do is they just tend to cut it free and just leave it behind, and it sits there anchored to the bottom of the ocean, just catching anything and everything, including scuba divers, until the end of time. There are brave teams of scuba divers who go out and collect ghost gear, and new companies are actually popping up who actually clean and then reuse this ghost gear and make something productive out of it. This is recycled ghost gear, and it reminds me every single day that we need to do something about it. I've been in the dive industry for quite a while now, and one of the most worrying things about it is just how easy it is to buy and ship equipment from abroad. Scuba diving centres have been closing all over the world because divers are buying cheap equipment from China and other places because all that they're focused on is the price. They don't seem to care about the quality of the equipment at all. All they look at is the price tag, and they almost see it as disposable because it's so cheap. So they just send their money out of the country and act surprised when their local dive centre closes its doors. If you work in a dive centre, one of the most common questions you will ever be asked is if you can give them any more discount for buying this bit of equipment. Oh, but I'm buying loads of it. Now, I don't know if this is the same as any other sport like rock climbing or mountain biking, but we really do need to stop this behaviour of just dropping prices and going in and demanding cheaper prices, because it is slowly killing our entire dive industry. Online price matching has made this worse. Customers can literally walk into a dive centre, spend 2 hours of a really experienced diver's time working out which is the best regulator for them, and then out comes the phone. An obscure website from Spain or wherever pops up with a ridiculously low price because that dive centre buys it in a different currency and in a completely different region, and then you have to either sacrifice your margin or the entire sale. Now, I do understand that we're being taught to be as savvy as possible now, and it's good to be basically make the most out of your money, but if you can't afford it, then just save up for a little bit longer. And dive centres aren't big multinational supermarkets. They can't survive on just a few % of margin. If all you're interested in is price, then you might as well just buy your dive gear from Amazon or China. Just good luck when it needs servicing or you need any kind of advice on how to use it. That's why we have dive centres, and if we don't support them, the future's pretty bleak. The level of some qualified scuba divers out there in the water also kind of worries me. That and the just indifference of some other divers. I've seen everything from people just walking on top of the reef, and people have literally carved their names into living coral. Other divers just don't know what they're doing, and an ignorant fin kick, because they can't control their buoyancy, will destroy decades, even centuries of coral growth. Their blissful ignorance comes from either poor training or lack of interest in improving their skills. Standing around just kind of clueless on the deck, waiting for someone else to do something because it's a little bit tricky and they don't understand it. I do appreciate that new divers do need a helping hand, and some divers do take some time to perfect their skills, but divers who just never learn or have zero drive to better themselves, they're the ones that scare me, because they're what other people will see and think what our dive community actually is. Other divers just live through their viewfinder of their camera and don't think about anything other than what's on their screen. They're the ones that are chasing after whale sharks to get a closer shot and cramming into the reef so that they can attempt to take a photo with just no consideration for the marine life or any other divers in the local vicinity. So they chase away that turtle that probably would have hung around for a bit that everyone could have seen, all for a mediocre blue shot of the back half of a turtle backside just swimming away. Again, I know that underwater photographers need to start somewhere, but maybe be a bit more selfless and, just kind of wait a little bit before trying to line up your shot. If you don't get a chance to take your photo, then it's just not your day. You will get another chance on a different dive. Don't try and force it. First things first, the origin of the Babak Worms name comes from Lorena Bobbitt, who cut her husband's manhood off whilst he was sleeping. Good start. Yeah, screw these guys. I mean, just look at them. Who in their right mind came up with the idea of the Babak worm? These little suckers burrow into the ground or the reef, and they are a living bear trap for when poor unsuspecting fish swim too close. They can lull you into getting in for a closer look because their outer shell can make pretty rainbow patterns, but everything else about them is made from pure hatred. Oh, and if the giant mandibles don't actually catch the fish entirely and break them in half the first time, the mandibles, they're also capable of injecting toxins. One report says, ugh. So when the bobbit does actually get its jaws around a fish, it can snap a fish's backbone in half and drag it underground, where it can just chomp down on the poor fish in the dark. Now, for most odd animals, there are a subsection of human beings that think an odd animal is cute, like people who have snails for pets. But I can guarantee that there is not a single human being on this planet who thinks that one of these little guys are cute and cuddly. And if there is, then you really need to be social distancing their freaky ass before they kill you and feed you to their bobbit worm in pieces. So, I mean, just look at this little guy. Every single part of him looks like it will hurt you if you touch it. Oh, and wait, there's even more. This is just what you can see on the surface. Let's actually zoom out of this diagram so that you can actually see a full bobbit worm. This is a bobbit worm. They live in and around the Atlantic, around Indonesia, and other parts between kind of 10 to 100 meters down, and they have their own special level in hell where they can stay put for all I care. Bobbit worms. So first off, sorry, yes, my list did get a little bit bleak there for a minute, but there are a few things that the dive community really does need to learn and do, and I know that it isn't all of you. There are plenty of responsible scuba divers out there, and the world in general is slowly turning to the brighter side of awareness. Except for bobbit worms, they can stay right where they are, thank you. But what truly scares you about scuba diving? I mean, the headlines, as ever, they all seem to be about fear-mongering because look at this scuba diver, they have an encounter with an octopus, how terrifying. And watch this scuba diver swim alongside a lemon shark. I mean, really? A lemon shark? The most terrifying of all the sharks? Really? But yeah, what worries you most about scuba diving? Is it overhead environments, not being able to see the bottom? Let's get out our fears out in the open in the comments below, and the more that we talk about them, the less intimidating they'll be. Now, if you do have a couple of seconds, and that's really all it takes, a couple of seconds, then I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe to my channel. It is really making a difference, and the more people who subscribe to the channel, the more videos I'll make. Thank you for watching, and of course, safe diving.